Amibroker Shoonya API integration. I am offering freelance AFL coding services at a very less price. If you need AFL coding, please contact me on Telegram. Feel free to share this information with your friends and relatives. You can download my AFLs from my blog, where you'll also find useful information for trading. All updates and modifications to the AFLs will be posted on this blog. Join my Telegram channel to stay updated on my blog posts, YouTube content, and useful trading information. Updates and modifications to the AFL will also be shared in this channel. For more useful codes, support me by doing any one of these. I created this video to provide a detailed explanation of the code, which is available free of charge. Please watch the video carefully. If you encounter any difficulties with installation, I offer installation support on a freelance basis. Among Indian brokers, Shoonya is the only one offering a free Amibroker plugin. When it stopped working, I became very worried, as paid bridges are not affordable for a small trader like me. I explored alternative free solutions and found a way to place orders. We are now ready to use all API features with any broker. In this video, I explain how to connect Amibroker to the Shoonya API. This process is similar to using a broker's Python SDK for Python users. To use this integration effectively, you should have some basic knowledge of AFL coding and the broker's API. If the broker makes changes to their API, the integration might not work, and I may not be able to provide immediate support. Therefore, learning to modify the integration yourself will be beneficial. I will provide updates as soon as possible. If you are trading with a large fund or managing multiple accounts, it is advisable to use a third-party bridge. If you are not familiar with coding, you can skip the coding explanation and simply use the AFL like you would other bridge AFLs. It is simpler and easier to use compared to most other bridge sample AFLs. Be sure to test this AFL during aftermarket hours using bar replay or button trade before going live trading. Use this AFL at your own risk. Curl is a lightweight and fast utility for sending HTTP requests. Since 2018, Windows comes with curl pre-installed. For earlier versions of Windows, download curl from the official website and extract it. From the extracted files, open the bin folder and copy curl.exe and curlcabundle.crt into the Amibroker installation folder. For more details about curl, watch my previous video on my YouTube channel titled Amibroker Broker API Integration Free. You can check curl API commands from the command prompt as shown here. In addition to Amibroker snippets, I also provide curl snippets. Download the curl test AFL from my blog and open it in the AFL editor. Click the debug button. This will create a folder named Amibroker API on the C drive and download an example text file into this folder. If you see the example file in the Amibroker API folder, the curl installation was successful. If curl is already available on your system, and you want to skip this step, you can manually create a folder named Amibroker without spaces on the C drive. This folder will be used to save API response data. Please obtain the vendor code, IMEI, and API key from Prism. To log in, you need to encrypt your password and API key using SHA-256. If you change your password or API key, you'll need to repeat this encryption process. Note that the Shoonya password will expire in 90 days. Since this is a one-time setup, you can use online tools to perform the SHA-256 encryption. Later, I will provide the AFL script for encrypting from Amibroker. Go to this link provided or search Google for SHA-256 encryption. Enter your password in the input field on the page. The output will display the encrypted version of your password. Save this encrypted password to use in your login AFL. The link is also included in the blog post that accompanies this video. Next, encrypt your API key. Enter your user ID, followed by a bar, and then your API key obtained from Prism in the input field. Save the encrypted output for use in your login AFL. When using the API, it's important to be aware of the request limits. These limits dictate how many requests you can send. Exceeding these limits will result in errors from the API. The URL provided here is referred to as the base URL or endpoint URL. Below, you will find the JSO keys and their corresponding values that you need to send for login. This is the AFL function created for the login API. To log in through the API, you'll need to keep track of these details: your user ID, your encrypted password, the vendor code, which is typically your user ID followed by an underscore and U, the IMEI, usually ABC1234, the app key, which is your encrypted API key. Make sure you have all these details on hand for login. Download the AFL file from my blog and place it in the Amibroker custom folder. Open the AFL file in the AFL editor. You can set your credentials as default parameters within the AFL. Add details within double quotes. Don't leave extra spaces. For multi-account users, use the username value to assign a unique number to each user. Make a separate copy of the AFL file for each user and apply all AFLs to your charts. For a single user, you can keep the default setting. The user token P parameter allows you to manually enter your token if there are changes in the log file or if you receive the token from another source. So leave this field empty. After entering the default parameters, save the AFL file. Now your credentials are pre-filled as default parameters, so you won't need to enter your credentials every time. Double-click the Shoonya login AFL to add it to an MP sheet, or drag it onto your existing chart that doesn't have any bridge-related codes. This step needs to be done once per day, and it includes a request-timed refresh function, so you can apply it to background sheets like Sheet 2 or Sheet 3. Check that all parameters are set correctly. Enter the OTP in the white box and then click Login. First, the AFL will delete any existing login files and remove static variables. It will then send a login request and receive a response in JSO format, which is similar to comma-separated values. The response will be saved as a text file in the Amibroker API folder. The login file will be read to set the user token in a static variable. The user ID will be set from the parameter. Consequently, you can obtain the user ID and token from any AFL by calling the static variable. After setting the static variable, the AFL also sends a limits request and the response is saved in the Amibroker API folder. From this response, you can obtain the cash margin, realized PNL, and unrealized MTM. These values are not set as static variables. If you need to calculate MTM-based exits, use the provided code for calculations. Here I get limits by button only. If you want MTM for square of positions, call this API within rate limits. The Set Manual button is used to manually set the token from the parameter. This is useful if the broker changes the login response format and you can obtain the token from the response file. In such a case, copy the token from the response file, paste it into the token manual set parameter, and then click Set Manual. If you receive the token from other apps, you can also copy the token from those apps, paste it into the token manual set parameter, and click Set Manual. The Reset button is used to remove static variables. The Delete Response button deletes the response files in the Amibroker API folder. Use this if needed. The Get Limits button sends a limits API request at any time after the initial automatic limits retrieval. The login response contains a fixed number of keys and values, which allows us to extract data using a comma-separated approach. However, the limits response has a varying number of keys and values. To handle this, I use a loop to identify the keys, which is somewhat similar to JSON parsing. TOTP can also be obtained from Amibroker using Python or PowerShell, but I prefer manual entry. This allows us to verify that the login flow is functioning correctly. For multi-account users, apply the AFL as shown here. I have made this AFL compatible with multiple accounts by changing the username value. However, I have not tested it with multiple accounts, so please check it very carefully. For users with multiple accounts, I recommend using third-party bridges. I have only tested it with single accounts across multiple brokers. In the next video, I will discuss the performance of order placement across multiple brokers. If there is an error message will be displayed as shown here. If everything is okay, it will set the user ID and token and display the result as shown here. If there is no login file, it will display a message saying check log file. For any message other than an error message or an OK message, it will display check log file. If you receive a 50 to bad gateway error between 5 o'clock and 6:30, it will also display check log file. I enter a dummy password. It deletes both the login and limits files, removes the static variables. We got an error message. Now, I enter the correct TOTP, received the token successfully. These are the place order API URL and the required JSON keys and values: user ID, account ID, exchange, symbol name, quantity, price, trigger price, disclosed quantity, product, transaction type, price type, and retention are the mandatory keys and values needed to place an order. These are the additional JSON keys and values that may be included: remarks, book profit price, book loss price, and trail price. This is the AFL function for placing an order. Only the necessary values are provided as parameters, while other values are coded within the function. If needed, you can modify these values yourself. The parameter format starts with the transaction type, which is either buy or sell, followed by the symbol, quantity, price, trigger price, price type, product, and exchange. After these, user authentication details and then the response file. Download the Shoonya Algo Order AFL from my blog. When applied to the chart, it functions as button trading and is coded for the cash segment, so please use it with equity symbols. To place an order, first log in, then click Buy or Short to initiate the order, and Sell or Cover to close the position. Check the broker terminal to verify that the order has been placed. The Reset button is used to remove static variables. After clicking Buy, a static variable is set for the open position. If you click Buy again, the order will not go through. In this case, you need to click Sell to close the position and resend the buy order. Alternatively, you can click the reset button to clear the static variables and then send the buy order again. The AFL includes a trace function to log order details. You can view the order sent details in the log window under the Trace tab. If you are using this feature for the first time, enable it by right-clicking on the Trace tab, selecting Trace Output, and ticking Internal. This will show the time the order was sent. The order book displays the time the order was placed. The difference between these two times represents the actual time taken to place the order. You can compare this with other bridges or platforms to evaluate their speed. From Chennai, order placement took less than a second, whereas from a VPS in Canada, it took up to 2 seconds. For faster order placement, consider using a VPS located in Mumbai. An Amazon AWS VPS with 2 cores and 2 GB of RAM should be adequate for most needs. If you want to place orders using your own strategy AFL, replace this line with your strategy. After doing so, you can apply it to the chart or run it in the scanner. If you prefer to use this as a drag and drop, remove this line and save the file. To replace this line, ensure that your AFL includes the functions for buy, sell, short, and cover. This AFL automatically calculates the quantity based on the position size and the day's opening price. It is coded for the equity segment. Enable the Need Order Number option if you want to modify or cancel orders. When enabled, it will save an order response file in the Amibroker API folder, which includes the order number needed for modifications. You can customize the details of these messages as required. You may add information such as entry price, stop loss, target, and other relevant details. This message string will be used for trace messages, pop-up notifications, Telegram messages, etc. If you need Telegram alerts, enable the code by removing the slashes and asterisks at the top and bottom of the code. Then, enter your bot key and channel ID. Next, remove the double slashes within the order code. For more details on sending Telegram alerts, watch my first video on YouTube titled Send Alerts from Amibroker to Telegram. Change the order details as needed, including limit order, market order, price, trigger price, etc. To enable pop-up notifications or Telegram alerts, remove the double slashes at the beginning of the relevant code lines. Download the Shoonya Entry Exit Orders AFL from my blog. This sample AFL places entry and stop loss limit orders. It functions like a cover order but places two separate orders simultaneously. A market order for entry and a stop loss order for exit. Like these two order codes, for multiple accounts, add each account one by changing the user credentials accordingly. Download the Shoonya options for AFL from my blog. It is for buy options from underline. It automatic check the index, select ATM and place order from number of strikes from ATM given in the parameter. Set the expiry date. In this Amibroker SDK AFL, I add all AFL codes and details. Along with this, I also add curl commands to check in command prompt. If this video has helped you, consider passing it on by doing one of these. Jai Hind.